The yards of Tidmouth were a mess. More goods were coming in every day, and more passengers were coming to the station to catch their trains. The big engines didn't normally mind having to do their own shunting, but the more busier they became, the more delays that followed. Customers complained, passengers grumbled, and trucks and coaches made a fuss. No one was happy. One evening, Henry backed into the sheds, feeling worn out. 3 goods trains I had to take, and all that was after I arranged Donald and Barry's trains, he panted. I understand we have to do our own shunting these days, said James, but the work is getting to be too much for us to do, on top of our regular runs.
Indeed, agreed Gordon. I never thought I'd say this again, but we need an engine to shun for us.
I couldn't agree with you more, Gordon, boomed a familiar voice. The engines looked to see the Fat Controller coming forward to greet them all. I've been noticing how busy it's been getting lately, so I'd say it's time to bring in a full-time shunter for Tidmouth. But, he added sternly, let me remind you that this doesn't mean you can go back to your tender engines don't shunt routine again. If the engine is struggling, you are to help.
Yes, sir. Understood, sir. They all said in unison.
Good. Now I should point out that the engine has only worked in a colliery before, so to help him out, I've asked Edward to teach him everything. When will this start, sir? James asked curiously. Tomorrow. The new engine will be brought in on Murdoch's goods train. Edward stood near the water tower the following morning as Murdoch, the railway's big tender engine, thundered in with a goods train in tow. Surprised to see you here, Edward, he said. I thought you'd be working on your branch line at this time, not waiting here in the yards. Sir Topham wanted me to show the new engine what he needs to do. Edward smiled as he looked back. He's only ever worked in a colliery before, so he'll have much to learn. Besides, Splatter and Dodge are handling my jobs till I return. Suddenly, there came a shout. Can I get down now? I'm bored up here with nothing to do. I want off of here, you understand?
Murdoch groaned. He's been like this the entire way. I wish you good luck with Billy back there. Billy? Is that his name?
No, it's William, but, well, you'll understand why he's called Billy. Murdoch shunted the flatbed with the new engine to a nearby siding, then left for a rest. Before long, the new engine was unloaded from the flatbed. To Edward's surprise, he was painted in bright orange, had a number 2 and a big toothy grin on his face. Greetings, young one. I'm Edward, and I'll be teaching you all need to know about working in the yards.
Thanks, but is it really needed? Billy asked. I've done shunting before.
Maybe colliery work, but working in the yards of the big station is very different. Trust me, young Billy, you have much to learn.
Billy looked at Edward with a nasty look. But don't worry, I'm sure you'll learn quickly enough. Then the yards are yours to work with.
Well, I hope so. Before long, the 2 engines began their work. Edward showed Billy many of his tricks of the trade, but Billy wasn't really paying attention and instead shunted the trucks to fast and to hard. Edward shuddered when he heard the trucks bump into each other. Be careful, Billy. Many of these wagons are loaded with fragile cargo, so you need to be more careful. Yeah, I get it. He grumbled, though it seemed as though he wasn't paying attention. Edward told Billy of where certain trucks were to go, and which coaches were meant for which platform, but Billy still wanted to do things his own way. As a result, as the sun set for the day, the yards were in a dreadful mess. James had to be called away from passenger duties to help tidy the yards, but the trouble didn't end there. No sooner had one engine rearranged things properly than Billy messed up 3 more trains. Silly Billy, stop doing that, shouted the yard foreman. Pay attention to what you are doing. Fine, whatever you say. James and Edward together gave him advice, but it seemed to be ignored as Billy did things his way once more. Soon James was growing tired of this. Silly Billy, you're making things worse. Now I understand why he's called Billy, Edward thought to himself. In the end, the yard foreman sent Billy back to the sheds, and Duck came up from his branch line to help with the mess in the yards. Finally, the work was done, but all trains had been delayed, and the Fat Controller had received more complaints than ever. Edward, James, and Duck panted as they sat in the sheds. Billy meanwhile sulked in his spot. The Fat Controller came up to the engines. I want to thank you 3 for all your hard work. Despite the delays, you managed to get the trains moving. You should all be proud of yourselves. He turned to Billy. As for you, Billy, make no mistake. I do not tolerate this kind of behavior from any of my engines. Engines who refuse to learn or listen are sent back. If you are, I will buy your brother to work the yards. At least he has patience from what I saw. Billy gulped and watched as the stout gentleman left the sheds. He didn't say anything after that. Instead, he was deep in thought. He and his brother worked for a kind and quite joyful man. He loved steam engines, especially twins. When he saw them being built, he bought them on the spot.
then had them painted his favorite colors, orange and purple. They were taught a certain way of doing things, but Billy always felt it was best to do things his own way, which often led him into trouble. After his owner passed away, the family wanted to sell his brother to the Fat Controller and send Billy off for scrap, as they felt Billy was, as they put him, an engine with no hope. Billy gritted his teeth. He wanted to do things his way, but he didn't want to go back and be scrapped either. Edward noticed this and decided to talk with Billy the next morning. Billy shunted some old tankers for the Farquhar quarry the next morning, but now was going at a slower pace. Edward puffed up beside him.
"Oh, I suppose you're here to gloat over how good you are and how bad I am. Well, I'll prove you wrong. You wait and see. I know you can be a hard worker, but I feel that your stubbornness to listen to orders comes from something else. Am I right, William?"
Billy jumped. No one in a long time has called him by his old name. He sighed as he looked down to the rails, then told Edward about his predicament.
"And so," he finished, "if I can't stay, the family will have me scrapped, lost to the world, and forgotten about." Edward smiled a gentle smile. Every engine worries about their place in the world, even Diesel's. You can ask Splatter and Dodge. They know that better than anyone.
But you have to learn to work a certain way, or else Sir Topham Hatt will never allow you to work here. So, what do you say? Care to try again, William? There was a small silence. Then a big smile came to Billy's face. "I'm not an easy engine to work with, but I would like that, Edward. Show me what I need to know."
Edward did indeed show Billy everything. He showed him how to shunt coaches properly, showed him where the correct trucks needed to go, how to shunt them properly, and most of all, how to listen to other engines. By week's end, Billy started to show some improvement. He was still a little clumsy, but Edward's confidence in the new engine grew. It grew even higher when a goods train of important goods was needed at the last minute, and Billy arranged it in mere minutes before Murdoch arrived, all by himself. The Fat Controller came to see them one evening. "Well, Billy, I have to say that I am impressed. The trains are now running on time, and I haven't heard of one single complaint. I wouldn't know what to do if not for Edward. He's the best teacher an engine can have." The Fat Controller smiled. "That's why I asked for him to help you. Edward's the best when it comes to teaching, plus he's got the most patience out of any engine here." "So, does this mean I can stay?" The Fat Controller paused, making Billy worry. But the smile that followed made it clear. "Oh, thank you, sir. And if you'd like, we'll give you a new coat of paint and have your nameplate polished." "Actually, sir, I would like to ask for a new coat, blue with red stripes, like my mentor Edward here. Edward felt honored hearing this, and I would like a new nameplate with my real name, William." "Very well then, William, we'll get that sorted in no time." And it was. When he came back from the works, he looked like a different engine. He certainly worked like one, and before long, the disorder in the yards came to an end. He still makes mistakes, as any engine does, but he knows now that if he doesn't know something, or needs help, he should always ask for help. Especially if that help is from his good friend and mentor, Edward the Blue Engine.